The Valera floated silently in the vast emptiness of space. Its engines had failed hours ago, leaving the ship helpless, drifting among distant stars that seemed cold and uncaring. Inside, the Karathi crew moved slowly, their movements heavy with exhaustion. Every face told the same story: fear, worry, and the creeping despair that comes when hope begins to fade. The life support systems were failing. Oxygen levels were dropping. Food and water were rationed tightly, but no ration could soothe the growing panic. Captain Ralnek, a tall Karathi with eyes like pale amber, stood in the command deck, staring at the flickering lights on the ship's control panel. Each warning beep made his heart thump harder in his chest. He had sent distress signals countless times into the darkness, but all that answered back was silence. For the first time, he felt the weight of helplessness crushing him. He knew space was vast, almost infinite, and that help might never come. Yet he could not let despair win. His crew looked to him for strength. If he faltered, they would lose even the small hope they clung to. The younger crew members, apprentices barely old enough to understand the dangers of space, huddled in the small common room. They whispered to one another, afraid to make noise, afraid to breathe too loudly. A child asked his mother, "Will someone come for us?" She pressed a hand to his tiny shoulder, forcing a smile she did not feel. "Yes, my little one," she said, her voice trembling. "Someone will find us. They will come." But even as she spoke, her heart sank. She had no proof. No sign of rescue had appeared in the endless void. Days, or perhaps only hours, time had lost meaning, passed slowly aboard the Valera. The stars outside glimmered faintly, indifferent to the lives struggling to survive inside the small ship. The crew rationed their breaths as much as they rationed their food. Some tried to occupy themselves with minor repairs, scanning nearby space for any sign of help. Others sat quietly, holding the hands of their loved ones, whispering prayers they did not truly believe in. Captain Ralnek paced the command deck, touching the console, wishing he could somehow reach someone, anyone, beyond the black. Then, deep in the void, a faint signal blinked on their instruments. It was weak, almost too faint to detect, but it was not one of their own messages. Someone, or something, was listening. The crew froze. Hearts pounded. Could it be a rescue? Or was it another trick of the cruel universe? Another false hope, meant to make them suffer more? Captain Ralnek gripped the edge of the console. His eyes narrowed, staring at the flickering signal. The beacon pulsed steadily, carrying a warmth that the Valera's crew had almost forgotten existed. It did not speak their language, yet the meaning was clear. "We hear you. You are not alone." Tears welled in the eyes of the young and old alike. For the first time in what felt like forever, a spark of hope ignited within the hearts of the helpless Karathi. The fear that had gripped them so tightly loosened just enough to let them breathe a little easier. For the first time in endless hours of isolation, they dared to imagine survival. Captain Ralnek straightened, his chest swelling with cautious optimism. He turned to his crew, his voice firm but soft, carrying the strength of one who must lead in hopeless moments. "Prepare yourselves. Help is coming. We are not alone." For the crew of the Valera, those words became a lifeline. In the darkest stretch of deep space, where silence had ruled for so long, the faint heartbeat of hope began to echo, trembling but unstoppable. And somewhere across the infinite stars, a human warship had heard their call, ready to answer without hesitation. Far across the galaxy, in a sector few charts dared to mark, the ISS Resolute cut through the darkness like a blade of light. The Terran warship was massive, built for conflict with armor plates that could resist the fire of multiple enemy fleets. Its engines hummed steadily, sending ripples of energy across space. On board, humans moved with purpose, each step measured, each gaze sharp. To most, it was a vessel of war, but today it carried the heartbeat of hope. Captain Elias Ward stood on the bridge, tall and steady, eyes fixed on the view screens. His crew had been monitoring multiple sectors for threats, scanning for anything that might endanger Terran colonies. And then, a faint, unusual signal appeared on the sensors. A distress call, barely perceptible from deep space. Its source was unfamiliar, alien in tone and structure. Ward studied the signal carefully. It carried the unmistakable signs of life in peril. The code was alien, yes, but the emotion behind it was clear. We are trapped. We are dying. Someone help us. His heart tightened. Humans were not known for hesitation, not in battle, and certainly not when lives were at stake. Captain, Lieutenant, Vance said, breaking the momentary silence. It's coming from an uncharted sector. It's not Terran. Unknown species, unknown ship. We have no visual. Ward nodded slowly, his jaw firm. I don't care what it is. Set course, maximum speed. We are going to help them. No excuses, no questions. Someone is in danger, and we answer. The officers exchanged glances, some worried, some inspired. Humans had a reputation, tough, unyielding, relentless. But their courage was not born of arrogance. It was born of an instinct they could not explain. When someone needed them, they acted. And this time, someone needed them badly. Engines flared, the Resolute accelerating past stars and comets, leaving a trail of blazing light behind. The crew worked in a synchronized rhythm, running scans, preparing shuttles, checking life support equipment. Humans were ready, not because they knew what awaited, but because they believed life in any form deserved to be saved. As the warship approached the location, Ward leaned over the console, studying the faint readings. The alien vessel was small and drifting helplessly. Its engines were dead, life support failing. For the humans, it looked fragile, like a toy in the vast dark. But they did not hesitate. For them, fragility meant urgency. Prepare rescue shuttles, Ward ordered. Medics and engineers, suit up. We are going in. Everyone else cover the perimeter. Nothing leaves until everyone is safe. On the bridge, the crew watched as the sensors revealed the lives of the alien passengers. Faces pale, bodies weak, movements sluggish. The humans saw fear and desperation, and it struck them deeply. There was no language barrier and empathy. Ward's voice broke the tension with simple, unwavering words. They are alive, and they will stay alive. We do not leave anyone behind. As the Resolute drew closer to the drifting Valira, the stars seemed to shine brighter, reflecting the humanity aboard the warship. Somewhere far away, a dying crew awaited help they had almost stopped believing in. Somewhere far away, hope was about to reach them, carried on the shoulders of humans who acted not because they had to, but because they could not turn away from suffering. For Captain Ward, there was no question of fear or danger. Out here in the infinite dark, humans had a duty that went beyond politics, beyond war, beyond self-interest. They answered calls for help, always, without hesitation. And as the Resolute closed the final distance, a faint glimmer of hope appeared on the Valira's sensors. Hope that would grow into salvation, and hope that would teach the Karathi a lesson they would never forget. That humanity, in all its power and might, could be the guardian of life in a universe that had almost forgotten how to care. Inside the drifting Valira, the crew sensed a presence long forgotten, the glimmer of hope. The faint signal that had first reached them now grew stronger, but even as they watched their instruments, it was hard to believe. Could help really be coming? Could anyone truly reach them in the emptiness of deep space? The Karathi had begun to accept that silence was the only companion of lost travelers, and hope had nearly died in their hearts. Captain Ralnek paced the command deck, fingers brushing the cold console. His eyes, tired from sleepless cycles, flicked from one monitor to the next. Then a flash appeared on the long-range sensors, a massive object moving with purpose toward them. His chest tightened, a mixture of fear and longing. Could it be? He whispered, almost afraid to speak the thought aloud. Below, the crew gathered near the observation windows. The young ones clutched each other, hiding faces, against the nearest adult, while older crew members tried to stand tall, holding back the panic that clawed at their stomachs. The object drew closer, massive and unlike anything they had seen. Its silhouette was sharp and commanding, engines burning with steady precision. The Valera was tiny in comparison, fragile like a paper ship in a storm. Then the first image came through. The ship was enormous, steel and fire, bristling with what the Karathi could only guess were weapons. At first the crew stiffened, fear returning. Perhaps this was not salvation, but a threat. Perhaps the universe had not mercy left for them. But then the transmissions came, strange, unfamiliar, yet carrying a warmth and clarity that spoke directly to the heart. You are not alone. We are here. Tears formed unbidden in many eyes. Some Karathi dropped to their knees, clutching hands to chest as the reality sank in. The humans had not hesitated. They had seen the distress call and had come without question, without fear, without waiting for permission. They were here now to save them. Captain Ralnick's voice, strong yet trembling, broke the silence. Prepare for boarding. Someone is coming to help us. We are not lost. Not anymore. He looked around at his crew, seeing the relief slowly replacing despair, and a flicker of pride stirred in his heart. Even in this moment of weakness, he realized they were not powerless. Life had not abandoned them. The crew rushed to prepare for the humans' arrival. Life support systems were reinforced, though weakly. Communication consoles were activated to send signals of acknowledgement. Small shuttles were readied to guide the rescuers safely. Every movement was cautious but urgent, driven by the instinct to survive. Outside the Valera, the Resolute approached steadily. Captain Ward watched the readings, noting the fragility of the alien vessel. His soldiers, dressed in their heavy suits, prepared for a rescue mission. They knew the dangers, they always did, but their resolve was unshakable. When lives were at stake, humanity acted, and nothing would stop them from fulfilling this duty. As the distance closed, the Karathi began to understand something new. These humans were not just soldiers or conquerors. They were saviors. They carried courage that went beyond fear, empathy that defied calculation, and a fierce determination to protect life wherever it existed. The crew of the Valera stared in awe, unable to imagine a species that could act so selflessly in the face of unknown dangers. When the first human shuttles appeared, glinting under the faint light of distant stars, the crew held their breath. The small crafts glided toward them, carrying hands ready to save, voices ready to comfort. For the Karathi, the darkness that had seemed eternal began to recede. For the first time in cycles, they dared to dream of survival, of returning home, of living another day. Captain Ralnick whispered to himself, almost in disbelief. They came. They really came. Hope had returned to the void. The Karathi understood in that trembling, shining moment that the universe could still be kind, that life could still be protected, and that humans, strong, relentless, unyielding, were a force that could answer a cry for help without hesitation. And in that darkness, hope became light. The Valera trembled slightly as shadows of the approaching ships appeared on its sensors. The Karathi crew pressed themselves to consoles and walls, hearts pounding in anticipation and fear. Then the first human shuttles emerged from the darkness, sleek and strong, gliding silently toward the drifting vessel. Each shuttle carried humans in heavy suits, armed yet gentle, prepared to rescue without hesitation. Captain Ralnick stood at the command deck, staring through the observation window. His pale amber eyes reflected the soft glow of approaching lights. "It's them," he whispered. "They've come for us." He felt disbelief and relief clash inside him. The humans looked so powerful, yet their purpose was clear. They were here not to harm, but to save. The crew gathered near the airlock, following the captain's instructions. Many were weak from lack of oxygen, others too afraid to move, but hope surged through every soul aboard. The Karathi had not known such hope in cycles. It was a strange, almost overwhelming feeling, a warmth that spread through bones that had long been chilled by fear. The first human team reached the Valera's airlock. Their leader, a tall man with stern but kind eyes, spoke through the universal translator. "We are here to help. Everyone stay calm. We'll get you out." His voice carried authority, yet compassion. It reassured even the trembling crew. Shuttles docked, airlock sealed, and one by one the humans entered the Valera. They moved quickly but carefully, checking each cabin, assessing injuries, and offering oxygen masks to those struggling to breathe. They spoke softly, giving comfort in a language the Karathi could not fully understand. But somehow, the emotion was universal. "You are safe now. You are not alone." Captain Relnick watched as a young human gently lifted a child from the floor, placing the oxygen mask over the small alien's face. Tears streamed down the child's cheeks, but they were tears of relief. The human smiled softly, adjusting the mask, and whispered words that did not need translation. The Karathi crew felt gratitude so deep it almost overwhelmed them. Even as they worked, the humans maintained strict discipline. Medics attended to those most in danger, engineers stabilized failing systems, and soldiers stood guard, ready to protect from any unforeseen threat. Every movement spoke of careful planning, courage, and an unyielding commitment to save life. Outside, the Resolute hovered nearby, a beacon of safety in the dark expanse. Its presence reassured the Karathi they were not alone. The humans would not leave them, no matter what dangers awaited. For the first time, the crew dared to believe they would survive this nightmare. One by one, the Karathi were brought aboard the human shuttles. Weak bodies, trembling hands, and fearful hearts were guided into safety. Captain Relnick lingered a moment, watching his crew leave the Valera before a human reached for him. He hesitated, then allowed himself to be helped. His heart, heavy with worry and relief, felt a strange lightness. Life was returning, and it had come on the wings of humans who answered a call without hesitation. As the last shuttle departed, the humans ensured the Valera would not drift into danger again. Engineers stabilized critical systems temporarily, giving the Karathi a chance to repair their vessel fully later. Even in their actions, the humans demonstrated something profound: power without arrogance, strength paired with empathy, and courage combined with care. The Karathi could not stop staring, could not stop whispering among themselves. "They saved us. They actually saved us." The realization sank in like sunlight after a long, frozen night. They had been lost in deep space at the mercy of cold stars and endless silence. But humans had come. And now, life had returned to the drifting ship. Captain Relnick, standing at the observation window, felt something shift within him. He had never imagined such kindness from strangers, nor had he believed hope could return so fully. Yet here it was, tangible, alive, and unstoppable. The humans were not just rescuers, they were guardians, champions of life in a universe that had almost forgotten mercy. And as the shuttles carried the last of the crew aboard the Resolute, the Karathi understood something simple, yet profound. Hope was alive, and humans had brought it back. The calm of rescue did not last long. As the humans worked to secure the Valera and bring the Karathi aboard the Resolute, sensors suddenly blared. Red warnings flashed across the consoles, and alarms echoed through the corridors. Captain Ward's eyes narrowed. "Report!" he barked, voice steady despite the rising tension. Lieutenant Vance's hands flew over the controls. "Captain, we have multiple contacts. Raiders. They've been hiding in the shadows. They were waiting for the Valera, for anyone weak enough to prey upon. And now, they've found us." A heavy silence fell. The Karathi looked on from the safety of the shuttles, their faces pale and trembling. They had just begun to breathe, freely, and now the nightmare returned. But Captain Ward did not hesitate. He did not waver. His hand rested lightly on the console, commanding without shouting. "All stations, prepare for combat. Protect the aliens at all costs. Engage enemy ships." The crew moved like a well-oiled machine. Weapon systems powered up, shields hummed to life, and human soldiers readied themselves in the boarding corridors. For the humans, this was not just a fight. It was a promise kept. They had answered a call for help, and now they would defend those they had saved with every ounce of strength they possessed. The raiders came swiftly, their sleek ships cutting through the darkness with aggressive speed. They opened fire, bright flashes exploding in the void as lasers struck the empty space around the Resolute. But the human warship did not flinch. Cannons fired back, missiles streaking past stars, and the Resolute moved with precision, shielding the Karathi shuttles from the enemy's attacks. Below, the rescued Karathi huddled together, watching in awe and fear. They had never seen combat so fierce yet so controlled. The humans were not reckless. Every move was calculated, yet every act was filled with courage. They were protecting life, not seeking glory, and the Karathi realized in that terrifying moment just how extraordinary their rescuers were. Captain Ralnick's hands gripped the railing of the shuttle bay as he whispered to a young apprentice beside him. They will not fail. They cannot fail. Humans. They fight to save, not to destroy. The apprentice's eyes widened, reflecting the glowing lights of distant explosions, the human's courage giving hope even in the chaos. The battle raged. Each wave of raiders met human firepower, and each human response was unyielding. Soldiers moved swiftly through corridors, ready to repel any boarding attempts. Engineers reinforced shields where the raiders' lasers struck hardest. Medics tended to the few injuries that occurred, their faces calm yet determined. Every human aboard the Resolute acted with one purpose: protect life. Hours, or perhaps minutes, time was meaningless in the heat of combat, passed in a blur of fire, steel, and courage. The Karathi watched, hearts racing as the raiders began to retreat. Human strategy and determination were overwhelming. The raiders had not anticipated such relentless protection, such unwavering defense. Humanity's ferocity in battle was not born of hatred or greed. It was born of duty, of compassion, of the refusal to allow injustice. Finally, silence returned. The raiders had fled into the void, leaving behind broken debris and the echo of their failure. The Resolute floated among the stars, battered in some places but standing tall. The humans took stock quickly, tending to their own minor injuries, checking systems and ensuring the Karathi were safe. The rescued aliens stared at the humans with awe and gratitude. Tears ran down pale faces. Captain Ralnick approached Captain Ward, voice shaking with emotion. You protected us. You risked yourselves for us, strangers. Why? Ward's eyes met Ralnick's, calm and unwavering. Because no one deserves to die when we can help. That is all the reason we need. For the Karathi, it was impossible to put into words what they felt. Fear had turned to relief. Hopelessness had become gratitude, and despair had transformed into awe. Humanity had proven itself, strong, fearless, and unyielding, yet capable of compassion beyond imagination. And somewhere deep in the stars, the Resolute sailed on, a shining testament to courage, mercy, and the unbreakable promise that no one would ever face the dark alone while humans still answered the call. The stars had returned to their quiet shimmer, but the echoes of the recent battle lingered aboard the Resolute. Smoke and the faint hum of damaged systems reminded everyone that danger had been close and that even a single misstep could have meant disaster. Yet the humans moved with purpose, tending to the rescued Karathi with care that was almost startling in its gentleness. Captain Ward walked through the shuttle bays, observing the crew and the aliens. Some Karathi were still trembling, clutching onto one another as though the warmth of life itself could be held in their hands. Medics adjusted oxygen masks, administered fluids, and checked vital signs, speaking softly in a language the Karathi could not fully understand. But the tone carried comfort. You are safe. You are alive. One young Karathi, pale and weak, looked up at a human medic with wide, frightened eyes. Will we live? The medic smiled gently, patting the child's small shoulder. You will, he said simply. You're safe now. We've got you. We won't leave you. The words were not just promises. They were truth. A force more powerful than any weapon the Resolute had carried. Captain Ralnick followed his crew, still shaken but filled with awe. Humans had defended them not for reward, not for recognition, but because it was the right thing to do. He watched as soldiers carried fragile Karathi bodies with steady hands. Engineers worked tirelessly to stabilize damaged areas of the shuttles, and medics whispered reassurances in a universal language of care. Every human movement radiated a singular purpose. Life mattered, and they would not let it be taken. Outside, the wreckage of the raiders drifted in the void. The Karathi crew had never imagined such power, nor had they believed anyone could protect them against such odds. And yet here were the humans, standing tall, battered but undefeated. Their courage was not loud or boastful. It was quiet, unwavering, and undeniable. The Karathi began to understand that strength was not measured by the weapons one carried, but by the willingness to risk oneself for the protection of others. As the hours passed, the rescued aliens slowly regained their strength. They huddled together, speaking in low whispers, trying to comprehend what had just happened. For them, fear had transformed into gratitude, awe, and a profound sense of wonder. Humans were not only warriors, they were guardians, capable of bravery that transcended species beyond borders, beyond comprehension. Captain Ralnek approached Captain Ward, his voice hoarse and trembling. I cannot find words. You saved us, strangers, and yet you fought as if we were your own. Ward met his gaze steadily. Because life is precious, he said. No matter who it belongs to, we do not let it be taken if we can stop it. That is what we do. The Karathi crew bowed their heads, overwhelmed by emotion. For so long they had wandered in the darkness, abandoned to the emptiness of space. Now, they had been shown a truth they could never forget. Courage could be kind, strength could be gentle, and hope could be brought even to the farthest reaches of the galaxy. As night fell in the endless void of deep space, the Resolute remained close to the Valira, ensuring that every alien aboard was safe. Human soldiers patrolled corridors calmly, engineers reinforced critical systems, and medics continued to tend to even the smallest signs of distress. Life had been restored, fragile yet strong, and every human aboard knew they had done more than their duty. They had honored the value of life itself. And in that quiet, shining moment, the Karathi finally understood a truth that would be carried for generations. Humanity was not just a species of war and technology. Humanity was a force of hope, of courage, of unshakable resolve. They did not wait for recognition. They did not pause to consider risk. When someone called, humans answered, always, without hesitation. The Karathi whispered among themselves, their voices soft but full of wonder. They saved us. They truly saved us. We are not alone, not while humans sail the stars. And somewhere deep in the dark, the humans of the Resolute looked out at the stars and understood something too. They were guardians of life, and no one lost in the void would be left unheard while they were there. The battle was over and silence settled over the stars. The wreckage of raiders drifted into the dark, leaving the Resolute and the rescued Valira crew in a calm that felt almost unreal after the chaos. But aboard the human warship, there was no celebration, only quiet determination. Every officer, every soldier, every medic understood the gravity of what had been done. They had not simply fought a battle. They had saved lives, and in doing so had shown the Karathi something that would echo across generations. Humanity could be fearless, and yet gentle, unyielding, and compassionate all at once. Captain Ralnek moved among his crew, his steps slow but steady. Many were still weak, trembling from fear and exhaustion, yet they clung to the humans with gratitude that words could scarcely express. Children hugged human medics, whispering soft thanks they could not fully pronounce. Adults wept quietly, tears of relief and disbelief streaming down their faces. The Karathi had survived the void, but more than survival, they had been touched by a force they had never imagined, a force called humanity. Ward stood on the bridge, watching as engineers repaired minor damages to both ships. Sensors blinked, steadily, showing no immediate threats. Yet his gaze lingered on the Karathi. He could feel their awe, their wonder, and their gratitude. It was quiet, subtle, but powerful. They did not fully understand why humans acted the way they did, and perhaps they never would, but they felt it deep in their hearts. The humans had come without hesitation, fought without fear, and saved without expectation. Captain Ralnick approached, Ward slowly, his voice hoarse but steady. Why? Why did you come? Why risk yourself, your crew, for us? We are strangers. We mean nothing to you. Ward turned to him, eyes calm, voice simple and firm. Because no one deserves to die. When we can help, that is enough reason. Life is worth saving no matter who it belongs to. The words resonated deeply within the Karathi. They had wandered lost and afraid, certain they would never see home again. Now they had learned a truth that would never leave them. Courage was not just strength, and bravery was not just battle. True courage was selfless. True bravery was standing for life when it mattered most. And humans embodied that truth in every act they had performed that day. As repairs finished and shuttles prepared to return the Karathi to their vessel, Captain Ralnick took one last look at the humans. He felt a mix of awe, gratitude, and respect, so profound it left him speechless. He would carry their example forward. He would tell the story to his people, and one day across the galaxy, countless others would hear of the humans who answered without hesitation, who fought for life, and who reminded the universe that hope could still shine even in the darkest corners. The Karathi crew boarded their ship, guided by human engineers and medics. Captain Ward watched until the last shuttle left, then turned back to his bridge. He did not speak. He did not need to. The humans aboard the Resolute had already understood. Actions spoke louder than words, and what they had done would resonate far beyond this single rescue. As the Valera's engines hummed weakly back to life, the aliens looked back at the Resolute. The massive human warship floated there, a silent guardian, bristling with strength yet radiating protection. For the Karathi, the sight would forever be a symbol of hope, a reminder that the universe could be kind, and that humanity, in its courage and compassion, was a force unlike any other. And somewhere in the infinite stars, a quiet truth settled into the hearts of all who had been saved. If we are ever lost, if darkness surrounds us, humans will come. They will answer, always, without hesitation. Hope had returned to the void, and with it, the galaxy learned something extraordinary. In the vast, cold reaches of space, humanity was not just a species of warriors. They were guardians, champions, and a promise that life itself mattered. And that promise would echo forever.